이제 여러분들이 가보시게 될 곳은 유럽에서 가장 아름다운 도시로 손꼽히는 곳입니다. 곳곳에 역사와 이야기들이 어려 있으며 늘 위대한 작곡가들의 음악이 흐르고 있는 곳이죠. 이곳에서 우리는 모차르트와 바흐, 베토벤, 그리고 비발디, 차이콥스키 등 수많은 음악가들을 만나게 될 것입니다.
Hello, I'm Simon Callow, inviting you on a journey that leads through the lives and times of the great classical composers. We'll be following in their footsteps through the cities and the landscapes that they lived in, that they loved, and that inspired them, like this astonishingly beautiful city of Prague. But first, let's meet Matt and Nikki, 150 kilometers away near the Austrian border in Český Krumlov.
Welcome to Classical Destinations. I'm Matt Wills.
And I'm Nikki Vasilakis, and we're in the Czech Republic and the stunning town of Český Krumlov.
From here, we'll visit Prague and open up some of the more fascinating chapters of that city's history, as well as its music. Dvořák, Smetana.
Even Mozart did well here.
체스키 크룸노프는 보헤미아 남부지방에 위치해 있습니다. 프라하로부터 약 190km 남쪽 보헤미아 고원 위에 있죠. 불타바 강은 체스키 크룸노프를 통과해 수도 프라하로 흘러들어갑니다. 마치 떠나기 싫은 것처럼 몇 차례 이곳을 휘감고 돌죠.
This town is an absolute jewel in the crown of Europe, but most of the world doesn't even know it exists. Maybe that's why it's so beautifully preserved.
마을이 내려다 보이는 이 성은 1250년경 지어진 것입니다. 하지만 대부분의 건물은 14세기 이후 지어졌죠. 벨벳 혁명 이래 생긴 가장 큰 변화는 80개가 넘는 식당이 문을 열었다는 것입니다. 이 덕에 이곳은 체코 음식을 맛볼 수 있는 가장 좋은 곳이 되었죠. 식사를 하며 둘러보는 마을 풍경은 너무나 인상적입니다.
It seems we're not the only ones who think so. In 1992, this whole complex was added to the list of World Cultural Heritage Sites.
장대한 불타바 강은 북쪽으로 흐릅니다. 프라하로 갈수록 점점 더 넓어져 엘베 강으로 들어가죠. 그리고는 마침내 북해로 흘러들어갑니다.
Prague's been here for a while and has a rich history. One of the early kings of Prague was Wenceslas, born in 907 AD, the very same Wenceslas as in the Christmas Carol.
신성 로마 제국의 황제 카를 4세의 통치 기간 동안 프라하는 번성했습니다. 파리나 런던보다도 컸죠. 바로크 시대의 매력을 그대로 안고 있는 이곳은 지금도 많은 사람들이 북적대고 있는 곳입니다. 카를 4세는 학문과 예술을 좋아하는 왕이었습니다. 그래서 많은 학교를 세웠죠. 그중엔 중부 유럽 최초의 대학인 카를 대학도 있습니다. 9세기 건축된 프라하 성은 많은 전쟁과 화재에도 불구하고 확장 공사를 거듭 유럽에서 가장 큰 성이 되었습니다. 16세기 오스트리아 합스부르크 왕가가 프라하를 침범해 권력을 잡습니다. 그 시대 최고 예술의 후원자라 불리던 루돌프 2세는 이곳을 예술과 과학의 중심지로 바꿔놓죠. 1612년 루돌프 2세가 죽자 이곳은 내리막길을 걷습니다. 그리고 18세기 마리아 테레지아 여왕에 이르러서야 힘을 되찾게 돼 많은 건물을 짓죠. 19세기는 보헤미아 시민의 긍지가 재탄생되는 시기입니다. 국립극장을 비롯 거대한 건축물들이 많이 지어지죠.
The National Theatre has a great story. Over a number of years during the period of growing nationalism, a public collection was taken up to build a theatre.
하지만 국립극장은 문을 열자마자 화재가 납니다. 잿더미 위에서 시민의 자긍심이 커질 수는 없었죠. 사람들은 다시 주머니를 엽니다. 1883년 마침내 문을 연 국립극장에서 처음 공연된 곡은 스메타나의 애국적인 오페라 리부스였습니다. 스메타나는 체코의 문화적 유산을 자신의 작품에 끌어넣은 최초의 작곡가입니다. 이런 이유로 많은 이들이 스메타나를 체코 음악의 아버지로 여기죠. 1848년 연주를 하며 근근히 생활을 꾸려 나가던 그는 옛마을 광장 한켠에 음악 학교를 엽니다. 이 기간 동안 그는 작곡을 시작하죠. 8년 후 그는 경력을 쌓기 위해 스웨덴으로 갑니다. 그리고 1861년 보헤미아로 돌아와 가설극장의 지휘자 자리를 얻고자 하죠. 하지만 이 희망은 5년 뒤에야 이루어집니다.
Prague is a city of such striking beauty that it's hardly surprising that one of the greatest Czech composers, Smetana, would want to write about it in his music. But to do so was also a loud and clear political statement. The Bohemians of the time, as Czechs were known in those days, really wanted their freedom back from the Austrians, their Habsburg neighbors who had not only stolen their political liberty but also their language. So Smetana wrote in his own tongue, for his own people, in the accents of his homeland, as can be heard to wonderful effect in his hilarious Bartot Bride. Even without words, his music speaks with a proudly Bohemian accent. Just think of the end of Vltava, as we should call it, not Die Moldau, as the Austrians preferred. Those resplendent orchestral sounds as the great river surges through Prague after its long journey through the Bohemian countryside.
넓은 프라하 성 안에는 아주 특별한 건축물이 있습니다. 바로 성 비투스 대성당이죠. 순교자인 성 비투스는 젊은 시칠리아 사람으로 로마의 박해를 받아 사자에게 던져졌다고 합니다. 이 성 비투스의 팔 한 조각을 이웃 왕이 바칠라프 왕에게 선물로 보냈죠. 물론 좋은 뜻으로요. 이곳에는 르네상스 시대부터 20세기에 이르기까지 각종 예술 작품이 골고루 갖춰져 있습니다. 선왕 바칠라프가 살해되는 장면을 묘사해 놓은 그림도 있죠. 또 나중에 덧붙여진 신고딕 제단도 있습니다. 이곳은 교회 귀빈석입니다. 그리고 이곳은 왕과 왕비의 묘죠. 그리고 한켠엔 선왕 바칠라프의 묘도 있습니다.
But this takes the cake. The bronze ring King Wenceslas clung to as he was murdered by his brother.
불타바 강변에는 아름다운 건축물들이 수없이 늘어서 있습니다. 그중엔 체코 필하모닉 오케스트라를 위한 공간도 있죠.
But the most impressive is the Dvorak Hall.
체코 공화국은 언제나 음악 강국입니다. 체코 음악인들이 세계 곳곳에서 활동하고 있죠. 재즈 트럼본 연주자였던 리보르 페색은 현재 영국 로얄 리버풀 필하모닉 오케스트라 수석 지휘자로 활발한 활동을 하고 있습니다.
To conduct here is always something special, not only because of its beauty, of its excellent acoustics, but also of the memories who has conducted here and how they conducted. So yes, it's a shrine. Smetana was a person who, to my generation, is surprising in one thing. He decided for himself to be the founder of the Czech national music. The surprising thing he did was that he has chosen the Wagnerian Germanic idiom. So the vehicle for the future Czech music was a Germanic mechanism. And that would sound crazy. It worked. He really established Czech national music on German form.
Prague is known as the Golden City of 100 Spires, and in it pulses the heart of the Czech people. And it was Antonin Dvořák who, through his music, shared that heart with the world.
꼬마 때 민속 바이올린을 배운 드보르작은 18살엔 무도회 악단에서 비올라를 연주합니다. 그 후 프라하 가설극장 오케스트라 단원으로 9년을 활동한 뒤 이곳 성 아달베르트 교회에서 오르간을 연주하게 되죠. 무명이었지만 그는 꾸준히 작곡을 합니다. 30대 초에는 교향곡과 실내악들을 작곡하죠. 1874년 드보르작은 처음으로 휴가를 얻게 됩니다.
He entered a number of works in a competition for struggling young artists. And one of the judges was Johannes Brahms, who was so impressed with Dvořák that he awarded him first prize, and from that time on took a deep personal interest in his career.
브람스는 드보르작을 자신의 출판업자에게 소개해 줍니다. 그 덕에 그는 피아노 이중주곡 슬라브 무곡을 쓰게 되죠. 1870년대에는 친한 친구와 나란히 앉아 이국적인 춤곡을 연주하는 것이 유행했습니다. 이 곡으로 인해 드보르작은 런던에서 멀리 대서양 너머까지 폭넓은 인기를 누리게 되죠.
He toured and conducted extensively, but in 1892 he set sail with his family for New York, where he became director of the National Conservatory of Music. Later, Brahms said, "I should be glad if something occurred to me as a main idea that occurs to Dvořák only by the way."
Antonin Dvořák was perhaps the most persuasive of all Czech musical ambassadors. The world fell in love with his music immediately. In Britain, we gave him an honorary degree at Cambridge University. In return, he let us have the world premiere of his Eighth Symphony. In America, he was asked to teach at the National Conservatory in New York. Some of his paychecks bounced, but that didn't stop him from writing what is perhaps the most famous piece of American music, the New World Symphony. Well, if we exclude Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man. Dvořák's music was not the music of the immigrants, it was the music of the slaves, of the Native Americans, and it's notable for its power and its dignity.
드보르작은 미국에서 3년을 보낸 뒤 다시 프라하로 돌아옵니다. 그리고 이곳 루돌피넘에서 지휘를 하죠. 사람들은 그를 살아있는 가장 위대한 작곡가라 칭송합니다. 무일푼의 악단 연주자 시절과는 사뭇 대조되는 광경이죠.
And considering this, I'm going to play some Dvořák. I think he would have really loved this place.
가장 사랑받는 체코 작곡가 중 한 사람이자 프라하 필하모닉의 주요 객원 지휘자인 즈데넬 마찰씨를 만나보도록 하겠습니다.
Dvořák is very important, I mean, for me, for the Czech Philharmonic Orchestra, but also for all Czechs. But I will say not only for the Czechs, but I think for the whole world. And I think the Dvořák represent the soul, the spirit of the Czechs, if you look from the window, so that's exactly what we are, you know. So first, the sentimentality or the musicality or the emotional and all the things. On our other side is the rhythmical part of his music, which is also very important because it's a lot of rhythm in Czech character and Czech music, dancing, and I think that Dvořák put it all together in best way. So that's why he is one of the greatest composers in the world. The Czech Philharmonic, with Czech conductor as me, you know, our blood is the same, our breathing is the same, our emotions are the same, you know. So before I open my mouth, they give me already what I want. You know, I start to believe they are reading my mind. And after 30 years, I came back. I came home. And I tell you, it's like a dream. If you remember the Russian invasion in 1968, you know, I never believed that I will be back here, that communists stay here forever. And you know what? It changed everything. The whole world changed. But you know, I am home here. I am home where I was thinking that I will never be back. It went over 30 years. So I simply said, okay, I will die, I don't know where, but I will be not in Prague. And you know what? I will die in Prague, probably.
프라하가 아름답다고 느낀 것은 저만이 아닙니다. 영화 아마데우스는 거의 프라하에서 촬영되었죠. 이것이 촬영지가 된 주된 이유는 무엇보다 18세기에 만들어진 건물이 너무나 잘 보존돼 있기 때문일 것입니다. 모차르트가 살던 시대와 가장 비슷한 곳이죠.
There's another reason that it's kind of fitting that Amadeus should have been filmed here. That's because Mozart was probably more popular in his lifetime here than anywhere else.
Mozart had a very special affection for Prague. Two of his greatest operas, La Clemenza di Tito and Don Giovanni, were commissioned by the city and premiered there. Don Giovanni was a stupendous success in the city, and Mozart quite seriously thought of moving there after his father died in 1787, more particularly because the triumph in Prague was by no means replicated in Vienna. They had a decidedly lukewarm response to it. You might have thought that even the Viennese might want to go to see an opera on which Casanova was reputed to have been the special consultant, but Vienna was always, and still is, a city of sudden dislikes and rejections. Prague, on the other hand, is a famously welcoming city. Small wonder that Mozart took to it so enthusiastically and that Prague took to Don Giovanni with such warmth. Don Giovanni wasn't absolutely complete by the time that Mozart and his librettist Lorenzo da Ponte arrived here in Prague in 1787 for the premiere of the opera. And so they had work to do. And they took rooms in opposite hotels. Mozart stayed in this one here on the right, Tri Vičku, which means the Three Lions, and Da Ponte was staying in Platés over there. And when Da Ponte had some new lines that he wanted Mozart to set, he'd write them down and then fold them up into a paper dart and send them winging through into that room over there.
베르트람카 저택은 화가이자 작곡가인 두세크의 여름집입니다. 모차르트의 친구인 두세크 부부는 오페라가 공연되는 동안 그를 이곳으로 초대했죠. 이런 따뜻한 접대가 있었기에 멋진 작품이 탄생했는지도 모릅니다. 현재 박물관으로 쓰이고 있는 이곳은 프라하에서 모차르트와 가장 밀접한 관계를 맺고 있는 곳입니다. 이 방에서 그는 2개의 오페라를 완성했죠. 1층 거실은 모차르트가 자던 곳입니다. 음악실에서는 아직도 연주회가 열리죠.
Because of Mozart's friendship with the Duseks, Prague grew to love him, and he said that the most beautiful moments of his life were spent here at Villa Bertremka.
This is the Estates Theatre in the heart of Old Prague, and it's forever linked with Mozart because it was here that he chose to premiere two of his most famous operas, Don Giovanni in 1787 and La Clemenza di Tito in 1791.
프라하 사람들은 정말 모차르트를 좋아했습니다. 이 상은 뉘우칠 줄 모르는 돈 조반니가 두려움에 떨며 지옥으로 끌려가는 모습을 보여주고 있습니다.
There's a lot of history in this theatre. Carl Maria von Weber and Gustav Mahler conducted here, and Paganini, the famous Italian violinist, gave concerts here.
프라하 소지구에 있는 성 니콜라우스 교회는 1704년 지어진 것으로 프라하의 대표적인 바로크 양식 건물입니다.
The history of this church gives you an idea of just how much Mozart was loved in Prague. He played the organs here during his visit in 1787.
(1791년) 모차르트가 죽자 프라하 전체가 그의 명복을 빕니다. 그리고 성 니콜라우스 교회에서 몇 차례 그의 진홍곡을 연주하죠.
I have the fondest personal feelings both for Mozart and for Prague. In 1979, I was lucky enough to play the part of Mozart in the very original production of Amadeus at the National Theatre in London, and then 5 years later, I played Emanuel Schikaneder in the film that Milos Forman made from it.
Salieri? Yes. Can we come in? Well, better not. He's sleeping. He's all right, though. Oh, yes, he's just exhausted. He became dizzy. That's all.
Schikaneder is a remarkable character. He wrote the libretto for the Magic Flute and, of course, played Papageno in it, and was also the very first Austrian Hamlet. Quite a remarkable man. Peter Schaffer and I used to wander around the streets of Prague, and in those days, still under the communist regime, there was often a curfew at around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, and the streets simply emptied, not only of people, but of almost any sign of the modern world. And it really did seem to us often in those slightly eerily quiet and empty streets where you could hear your own footsteps echoing around the walls, that Mozart might just suddenly nip out with that unnerving giggle of his and say something cheeky and then run away again. They'd kept the old town almost exactly as it had been.
The Czech Republic drinks more beer per capita than any other country in the world, and they've been brewing it here at U Fleku since 1499. The place was bought by Mozart's playboy friend Jakub Flekowski, and he called it U Fleku, which means at the flex. Cheers.
There's so much to see in this city. You could spend weeks in the castle and cathedral alone and not see all of it.
Well, who wouldn't be inspired by this fairy tale of a city? Mozart certainly was, and wrote some of his most adorable and dramatic music for it. But perhaps it really belongs to its own composers, Dvorak, and above all, Smetana, the man who set the great river to music. So, where to next week? Next classical destination, Eisenach in Germany, birthplace of Johann Sebastian Bach, the father of classical music. Don't miss its sights and musical sounds. Goodbye. I'm Simon Callow. See you soon.